All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the final session of our final day of CityLab. It's so nice to see everyone. Bloomberg Philanthropies is thrilled to be collaborating with Mariana Mazzucato and her team because we have been stuck in how we think about government and local government in particular. And in order to tackle the challenges, the complex challenges ahead, we need to be investing in the public sector and in the capacities that she's referenced and that Bloomberg Philanthropies has been investing in over the past decade. These are the capacity to use data, the capacity to engage residents, the capacity to form mutualistic partnerships with the private sector and civil society, the capacity to think outside the box. These investments enable local government to play their central and essential role in steering transitions at urban scale, in our energy systems, our mobility systems, our food systems, as part of our efforts to create societies where every single member can thrive. The good news here is that we are not starting from a standstill. The public sector innovation movement is alive and thriving, as evidenced in this room and here in Amsterdam over the past 2 days. The labs that popped up in the early 2000s, we heard from Christian Bassan, one of the early pioneers. The Poverty Action Lab that Linda Gibbs started in New York in 2006. These have been followed by hundreds of innovation offices and officers, data units and labs, all focused on creating a more modern local government and a capacity to innovate and adapt. We just heard in the data session the incredibly central role this capacity played during the pandemic. It's worth emphasizing. In Long Beach, the innovation teams helped that city develop one of the most ambitious and rapid approaches to testing and vaccination in some of the most hesitant communities in their community. In Bogota, Santi knows, innovation units helped cut through bureaucracy to get 100,000 tablets into the households of poor children at the outset of the pandemic, not at the end of it. As we've also heard from Eastern European mayors, the data units played a central role in helping them understand needs as thousands of people were coming into their communities and pinpoint services in rapid order. Research published last year by the OECD also shows us that cities with higher public sector innovation capacity also have higher levels of city and life satisfaction. That's critical. As we all know, you go into the game with the team you got, not the team you want. And we need a local government that leads with agility and responsiveness in the face of our big challenges. That's what we're all here building together. Now, we are beginning to see the next generation of these efforts. It's a shift towards greater complexity, more sustainability, and impact at scale. And that brings me to my recent trip to Mexico City. I spent time meeting Mayor Claudia Sheinbaum at City Hall. She is the first woman to lead the city and probably one of the first mayors, if not the only mayor in the world, to earn a PhD in both energy engineering and physics. She and her team showed me this historic building that has been the seat of government in the City of Palaces for more than 500 years. I visited Pepe Marino, who's been with us for the last 2 days, and his team at the city's Digital Agency for Public Innovation, and began to understand the thoughtful integration of policy leadership, engineering, and design capabilities that are at the heart of what they've built and at the heart of what they're doing in this city. But it was at the Civil Registry Office that really everything clicked for me. This place is the central repository for vital records, home to the birth certificates, the marriage licenses, the divorce decrees for nearly 10 million people. These are the documents that are essential to the transactions of social, political, and business life. But for so many of the poorest residents of this city, accessing these documents meant skipping a day of work, spending long hours in lines, or paying bribes, requirements that are untenable and unreasonable in any city that values democracy and access. Now in Mayor Sheinbaum's CDMX, this office is becoming open and accessible, enabled by digital and connected to the poorest residents across the community through their phones. It's a radical, inclusive, ambitious approach for making public services real in the lives of every single resident in a city that needs it. And this is why I'm so pleased to be joined today by Mayor Sheinbaum to talk about her vision and her approach. I'm going to go over to the chair so I can snuggle up to her on the screen. Buenos dias, Mayor Sheinbaum. I know it's early. It's early there. Welcome to CityLab.
Thank you very much for the invitation, and welcome to Mexico City. Bye.
It's great to see you again. You know, oftentimes at conferences like these, or when you talk with city leaders, you hear them talk about a smart cities agenda, a technology agenda. They talk a lot about the solution. I really noticed when you and I met that is not at all where you start these conversations. Tell us why this agenda has been important to you and what it's grounded in.
Yes, thank you very much. Well, since we entered to the government, we say that the city's motto for our government is that we are a city of rights and innovation. Rights mean for us the right for education for everybody, to public health, better environment, access to internet, and a better relation between citizens and government. So we believe that through digital innovation, we can make sure that everyone in Mexico City has access to the rights that they deserve. So digital services must be put to the service, especially to the poorest of the city. It's not just an interest to have a better digitalization of every services that the government provides. In many places, digital innovation has been centered around making the most advantaged people for comfortable. In Mexico City, we changed this model, or at least that's what we want to change. This means using digital to give people access to the rights they have been denied historically. Digital innovation in Mexico City is a way to reduce brutal inequalities of the past. So our objective is to ensure that through connectivity and digital services, everyone in Mexico City have access to the rights they deserve, to connect to the people they love, or to get access to knowledge, or to have access to governmental services. So it's more than putting the government in the service to the people, rather than a thing that government needs to digitalize every permit that they have.
Incredibly powerful and ambitious and beautiful vision. So we'll talk in a moment about the breadth and the impact that you're having. But first, you're an engineer. I know you can get into the weeds. How did you lift this ambitious effort off the ground? What were the first steps you took to facilitate this bold agenda?
Well, the first thing that we did is to create the Digital Agency for Public Innovation. You know, many people think that innovation is only a way for private enterprises, and that government is not, it's not possible for government to produce innovation. So we created an agency. We have many young people working on this agency. And we have proved that innovation is part also of of a state process. Mm-hmm. So we are convinced that digitalization is a way to empower citizens, and that's why we create this agency.
One of the things, just to point out to everyone in the room, as this law took effect at the time the mayor went into office, so she worked to get the law passed before she got there, but it consolidates, Mayor, I think, a number of agencies that you wanted all to be under one umbrella, reporting directly into the mayor. Why was that consolidation and that proximity to the mayor important to you?
The first thing is that many regulations happen in any minister of the city. So the first thing that we did is that there was not possible to make a new regulation to pass through the agency. So that's very important because you have in one place regulation or deregulation, depending on what you want to see. And at the same time, you have digitalization and access to every services that the government gives to the poorest people of the city. So that's the philosophy that where we create the agency. Well, we have developed actually a factory of software with these young people. There are around 40 young people that are working in this agency. We have stopped paying for services, for digital services, and we are actually, bringing everything almost for free. We have created a lot of software for inside the government and outside the government, and decreasing many tramits that we have to do by the services that the government provide. So this is not possible if the chief of government is not directly involved in what we're creating, and also directly involved with the citizens to see if what you're doing is really happening.
Again, it's just worth noting because it is incredibly unusual. Mexico City has a technology factory. They are building their own technology in-house. They are resisting the outsourcing. They are resisting buying products off of the shelf. Mayor, why is that important to you? It's incredibly unorthodox. Why is that a central part of the reform that you're driving?
Okay, I would say the driving is one. It's that we know that we have local talent of young people to create it. The second thing is that we use open software, and that's very important because you not involve the city in a long-term contract to private enterprises for services. So we develop it. And the other thing is that we save a lot of money, almost about probably 150,000, really? $150 million doing this.
Great. So let's now talk a little bit about some of the impact that you're having. I understand. Let me give you a few of your statistics, and you can tell me if I'm off here. She started with 90 free Wi-Fi spots in 2019. By the end of this year, there will be 34,000 free Wi-Fi spots, the largest free Wi-Fi network in any city in the world. Your Llave, the single sign-on digital key, has over 65% of Mexico City adults now participating, incredible penetration. You've replaced 40 different apps with a single app to make digital complaints to get COVID results. Mayor, with results like these, where do you go next?
Okay, first we have to consolidate everything that we have developed. We are now, as you said, the most connected city in the world. We are going to end this year with 33,000 free Wi-Fi points. We are connecting every public school. We are connecting 3,500 units, housing development. We have around 15,000 points around the city. And we are now to the poorest part of the city to also give connectivity as a right. Through that, we think that access to internet, it's also a right for the citizens. It is not, if you have citizens that only the one that can pay have access to internet, then what you're going to do is increase separation, increase inequalities in the city. So for us, it's very important that people can access to free internet. And also it's free. I mean, they want to do what they want. We think that people are responsible for their lives. The state has not the right to go through the citizens. We just want to give them the right to do that. The second thing is that we're working on Llave, as you said. It's the key to the governmental services. So we are going to consolidate Llave. So if you have 18 years old and you are going to have your first, connect to the government, what we want is along your life, if you live in Mexico City, you don't have to give any other paper that the government already have. Maybe if you change your address or something like that, but you have your small key or your small, file, your small file, save file for every citizens in Mexico City. That's going to be, a huge advantage for the citizens and for the government. So you're going to have a digital connection, and probably you're going to end the lines. The other thing that we have digital driver licenses, digital, permit for your car, and many other digital services that put the Mexico City in another part, comparing to other cities, not only in Mexico, but in the world.
Who agrees with me that a study trip to Mexico City might be in order? Thank you, Mayor. It's really brilliant. I'm going to leave you with one final question. We have a room full of people all committed to making their cities more innovative places and putting values at the center of that work. If you have a single piece of advice for cities that may not be as far along as you, what would that be?
Okay, the first thing is that believe in young people, always. They have a key for the future. There's always this thing that you have to contract, private enterprises for many, many things. And that's good for some services. But believe in your young people. That's, the first thing that I could say. The second thing is that don't be afraid to do this. Once you go and believe in the people that it's doing all these things, you're going to find a way to connect to your citizens. And this is, the best way that you can do. And the other thing is be connected to your citizens, because sometimes you think that you solve many, many problems, but you have to be in contact if you really solve them, or you're thinking only from your office.
Wonderful. Gracias, Mayor Sheinbaum. Thank you for joining us. Please give the mayor a warm thank you. Thank you.